Good morning. Let's take a look at today's work here. All right, so on number one, you have to graph this. Now, in order to graph this, you need to find the slope and the y-intercept, of course, because it's a line. So on this one right here, let me think. Today's date is 4/11. So your slope is here. If you put the x, that's wrong. So m and y. M is this, and it's rise over run. And your y-intercept is this. Okay, so draw a graph. This is your y, so you want to go down one. Then this, you're going to go down 3, and then over 4. And then you can use a straight edge, and there's your line. This one right here is a quadratic equation, and to do that one, you need to figure out x equals negative b over 2a. So write that down. X equals negative b over 2a. So here, your a is 1, so it's going to be x equals negative b over 2 times a. So this is going to be 2 over 2. That's double negative, so it's going to be 1. So you make a chart. You make this a little smaller so I can do some work, and you can see it. So you put the 1 in the middle, and then you back off. So smaller would be 0 and negative 1. Bigger would be 2 and 3. And then you got to plug these into this equation right here and work it out. So I'm going to put the 0 first, because the 0 is the easiest. 0 here, 0 there, I get negative 3. And these should be the same. If I put a 1, 1 times 1 is 1. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2 minus 3. That's a negative 5, so that's going to be a negative 4. If I put 3, 3 times 3 is 9, minus 2 times 3 is going to be 6, and then minus 3. This is 9 here, and that's 9, but it's going to be 0. So when you graph this, it should be a U. So negative 1 up 0, over 0 down 3, over 1 down 4, over 2 up 3, and then over 3 up 0. So this is going to be a U shape here. And I want you to label your vertex right here. So your vertex is a minimum. That's your vertex. Any questions on how to do that? Got to memorize that formula. Well, let's keep moving. This one right here, I want you to do the quadratic equation, and then I want you to graph it. Okay, now, let's just talk about graphing first. Well, or even the quadratic equation, you got to get it equal to 0, so you're going to have to subtract 4 from both sides. Once you get it equal to 0, then you're going to do your A, your B, and your C. And then you got to plug it into this formula. Now, we already went over how to do this, and I want parentheses like this. And then you plug your numbers in and work it out. Okay? So B is 8, and then it's AC, and then it's 2 times A, and then you work it out. Okay? You might say, well, I need some help with that. Okay, well, 8 times 8 is 64. This right here is 1 negative. 4 times 4 is 16, and 16 times 3, I think, is 48. 64 minus 48. Get your calculators out. So 48, or 64 rather, minus 48. I get 16. Well, the square root of 16 is 4. So it's going to be negative 8 plus 4 divided by 8. And negative 8 minus 4 divided by 8. So this gives you a negative 4 over 8, which equals negative 1/2, or 0.5. This one right here gives you a negative 12 over 8. You can reduce it by 4, so it's going to be a negative 3 over 2, which is 1.5. And then you got to graph it as well. Okay? But remember, it's got to be equal to 0. Today you have this work right here. All right, so all of these right here, I want you to graph it. Let me think about this. No, I want you to use the quadratic formula. So use the quadratic formula on the front, but on the back, I want you to graph these. So it starts off with lines, but down here it comes to this right here, quadratics, okay? I might have the numbering mixed up, but it's x equals negative b over 2a, which is going to give you your vertex, okay? So let me just show this in case somebody needs to copy it. All right, so when you do the quadratic formula, you're going to get that. But I want this side first. So you're going to graph them, and then you're going to flip it over to do the quadratic formula. Okay? Let's talk about college algebra here. And you can see this is saying pre-calculus. Well, as it is. Now today's work is right here. Okay, so copy that one down. Right there. Okay, so let's work this. Well, we're going to do matrix form today. So you're going to put the coefficients. So it's going to be 1. This is called augmented. 1, 7. It's a 1 right here. And then 3, negative 5, 1, and 14. And then 2, negative 2, negative 1, and 3. Okay, copy that down. Now remember, we want to get zeros here. And ideally, you want ones here. I don't know that we're going to worry about the ones, but we want zeros. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to multiply equation 1 by negative 2 to get rid of that 2. So I'm going to multiply this one by negative 2 to get rid of that. So the first one's going to stay the same. The second one is going to stay the same. But the last one, that's going to be negative 2, so I get my first 0. That's the first spot you want a 0. This gives you a positive 4 minus 2 is 2. This gives you a negative 2, and a negative 1 is going to give you a negative 3. And then this is a negative 14. A negative 14 plus 3, I think, is a negative 11. Okay? Now we want to get this one to be a 0. Okay, second step. So we want to multiply the first one by negative 3. And when we multiply by negative 3 and add it to the second one, we're going to get a 0 here. Alright, so the first one stays the same, so rewrite it. The second one is going to cancel here. Negative 3 and 3 is 0. That's going to be 6. 6 and a negative 5 is 1. This is going to be a negative 3, and a negative 3 and a negative 3 looks like a negative 6, I think. This is going to be a negative 21. And let me think here. Let me backtrack. That's a negative 3, that cancels. That is a 6, but I got to use it with this one. So yeah, 6, and that one is going to give me 1. So that's right. This is a negative 3 and a negative. Okay, so I should have gone to this one. So negative 3, and then 1 is going to be a negative 2. Let me change that to a negative 2. Let me separate these so I don't lose track. Okay, I think that's right. That's going to be a negative 21. A negative 21 and 14, I think, is a negative 7. Okay, so rewrite the second, or the last one rather, because that didn't change. Now what you want to do is multiply this one by negative 2 to get rid of that. So I'm going to multiply by negative 2 and add it to that one. So what's going to happen is the first one's not going to change. The second one's not going to change. But the last one is. So I get negative 2 times 0 plus 0, of course, is 0. That and that gives me a 0. That gives me a positive 4. That gives me a 1. This gives me a 14. Let me think here. 14 minus 11 is going to be 3, I think. 14 minus 11. Okay, yes. So I get z is equal to 3. Okay? And then I backfeed it. This is x, y, so this is y. So it's 1y minus 2z is equal to negative 7. And then I substitute a 3 right here. So I get y minus 6 is equal to a negative 7. And then I add 6. And when I add 6, I get y equals a negative 1. So I have two answers here so far. And then I go back up to this equation, and I figure out the last one, x. All right, so today you have a worksheet. I want you to do a couple of things. I want all of these, you got to write the augmented, and then you got to do it the way I just did it. Okay? And then I want the back side here, same way. And then I want you to read and copy this. Now, if you finish early and you pack up and close your books, you will lose points. So even if you did everything I asked you to do, find something else to do quietly. All right, have a good morning.